Hi, this is Professor Tina Good, and as we come to the end of our play, Real Women Have Curves, I wanted to leave you with some final thoughts to think about and questions to ask, because these are questions that we are going to continue to ask throughout the semester, and perhaps you will even choose to write your final essay about this play. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see the PowerPoint I've developed for this final video on the play. Okay, so first, let's discuss the genre, the play. Now, the play obviously is not intended to be consumed as we just did through reading of the play. It is intended to be consumed as performance, where we see actors interpret their roles. We have a lot of body language on this stage. We have sets to look at. We have music in the background, right? And costumes. And so that's how we are intended to take in this play. And so I hope you will have the opportunity to see this play either on YouTube or on stage. And you might, once the semester is over, actually take a look at the movie, even though I strongly recommend you don't watch the movie until we have finished doing all writing exercises for the semester, just because it does differ significantly from the play and it could confuse you. Nevertheless, we did read it this way, and we will notice that even reading it or watching it on stage, that there are some things that can be said in general. Usually in plays, there is no particular narrator. Some plays do have a narrator, but usually they do not. And that being said, however, usually it is presented through one particular character's perspective. And as you noticed when we were reading it, plays are largely driven by dialogue, unlike short stories or novels, which are driven usually by a narrator. This particular play has what we call an ensemble cast, and you will see this a lot in film and on plays. Perhaps one of the most famous ensemble casts is the show known as Friends. And so when we're thinking about what an ensemble cast is, we can reflect back on Friends, and we can see that each character will have their own conflict, their own climax, their own character development. But in a play, you don't have, right, a full, series to develop them. So yes, in an ensemble cast, you still will usually have a protagonist and an antagonist. But each character in the ensemble cast, separate from the protagonist, will have their own conflict. Each character's conflict is interwoven into the overall conflict connected with the play and or the protagonist. They may be the same, they may have different moments, but all of their conflicts, and if they have different climactic events, all add to the complexity and depth of the play, its themes, and the character development. Usually, if there is an ensemble cast, the play is more driven by character relationships rather than by a strong plot. The main characters. So who do you think is the main character of the play? Is it Estella? Is it Anna? Or is it both? To determine this, we need to take a close look at the climax of the play. What do you think is the climax of the play? Whose conflict is being most represented in that climax? Who makes a decision at the moment of that climax? Who changes as a result of that conflict? Who is the antagonist of the play? right? Antagonists don't have to be just a character. We can have different kinds of antagonists: person, place, thing, idea, right? You've heard of the idea of man versus beast, man versus society, man versus technology, man versus, man. So there are a number of ways to have an antagonist, right? But clearly in this play, we do have an antagonist on the stage known as Carmen. We will talk about how Pancha also serves as an antagonist, but on the stage, Carmen is the one providing a great deal of conflict to either Estella or Anna, okay, as she's playing this mother figure. Therefore, we know that Carmen cannot be the protagonist, even though you will see that she actually does have a climactic event, okay, that does, I think, change her. In this play, however, what's interesting is that most of our antagonists are not represented by an actor. They are not visible on stage, and really they have no lines. And so other than Carmen, other than Pancha, we have antagonists that reside in La Migra, Mrs. Glitz, El Tormento, Carmen's husband, Pancha's husband, maybe even the fashion industry, right? Maybe even bigotry, maybe even capitalism itself, right? So you might even think that Anna is a bit of an antagonist to Estella. So think about that as we move forward. But we want to, the point here is to note that generally the antagonist is somebody who's causing, or something that's causing, conflict to our protagonist, and therefore cannot also be our protagonist, usually. All right, the minor characters. We should not confuse minor characters as being less important than our main characters, right? They are just simply, not the focus of the climax, right? They can be round or flat. They can have their own complexities, and they do contribute as much sometimes as our main characters to the themes, the plot, and the conflicts within the play. Actors are usually assigned to the parts of our minor characters. They may have fewer lines, they may have less visibility on stage, but maybe not. In this play, Pancha and Rosalie function as our minor characters, right? And as I mentioned before, Pancha is often considered an antagonist in the play, similar to Carmen, but not the same, right? Because she has a different conflict. While Pancha does, sort of act as a mother figure in some ways, her conflict is very different than Carmen. Carmen has had 8 children, and Pancha is unable to have children, right? Carmen's conflict is more in perpetuating her ideals of the of the Mexican tradition and the roles of Mexican women on her daughters, where Pancha's conflict comes from the fact that she cannot have children, and she is so entangled, her ideas of what it means to be a woman, with motherhood, that she actually thinks of herself as not a real woman, and actually captures one of the most heartbreaking moments, I think, in the play. Okay. Rosalie is not an antagonist. We could not possibly think of Rosalie as an antagonist, right? She's a very kind, compassionate character. But instead, she represents the eating disorders and body dysmorphia that can result when there's just too much emphasis put on the body as equating with self-worth, right? And we get that so wrapped up in the ideas of Rosalie, that she is not even willing to have sex, with anyone because she feels too fat. She does not feel worthy of love until she has the body that she thinks she should have and that she thinks is desirable to someone else. So like Pancha, she adds complexity to the themes of the play, and also perhaps provides the play with one of its most heartbreaking moments. So again, we should not think of minor characters as less important. The dramatic moments in this play really circle more around Pancha and Rosalie. The silent characters. There are many silent characters in this play, and silent characters are rarely assigned to an actor. And if they are, that actor may play several of these characters because they only have one or two lines. Sometimes it's taken from a chorus, if there's a chorus in the play. And so they have very little visibility, if any, on stage, and very few lines, if any, on stage. Generally, silent characters represent a stereotype, and therefore they don't need to be developed. Audiences understand who they are supposed to be, and often this type of silencing represents a type of bigotry or bias that is present in the society. In Real Women Have Curves, stereotyping is probably still happening, but the silencing is upside down. Mostly it can be argued that it's upside down because in order for these group of women that represent this oppressed group, right? Factory workers, Chicana women in the garment industry, in order for there to get their stories out, the more dominant voices need to be silenced, right? The dominant voices are usually the stories we hear. And in order for us to hear the voices of a marginalized group, the dominant voices are silenced. And in this particular case, often cast as the antagonists, such as La Migra, Mrs. Glitz, El Tormento, Pancha's husband, Carmen's husband. In this play, however, there is a notable exception to that, and that is the radio caller and the radio host Esperanza, right? There is that moment that takes quite a bit of time on stage. And even though we don't ever see the radio caller and we don't see the radio host, we hear their voices. And that brings up, right, this idea of abuse in a very specific way. And how this idea of abuse is complicated, right, when you are not covered by the law because of your legal status. But of course, the radio host's name is Esperanza, which means a hope in Spanish. And so there is this idea of hope that even in this situation and throughout the play, right, permeates this idea of their future. It is not all desperation. So the climax. What do you think is the main climax of the play? Is it when Anna jumps up on the table and tries to get them all to say no? Is it when Anna gets them all to take off their clothes because it's so hot and they start comparing stretch marks, which would have been a great moment for the audience on stage. It would have been very funny and yet very insightful. It is, of course, the moment when probably Carmen gets her climactic event, right? When she goes and opens the door without any clothes on or with very little clothes on. That's a great moment for Carmen. Is it when Rosalie passes out? These are all significant moments in the play. So, what are the climactic moments for the characters who are not the protagonist, right? So, as I said, probably Carmen's moment is when she takes off her clothes and opens the door. What about Pancha? When is Pancha's moment? When is Rosalie's moment, right? So what moment do you think is the moment where Anna or Estella makes a decision and that decision changes who they are and changes the course of the play? Once you can identify that, you will be able to identify who you think the protagonist of the play is. The conclusion, right? The conclusion should be a resolution of the climactic moments in the play, right? And so you need to take a look and see like, okay, so what is Estella's resolution, right? As a result of that climactic moment you've identified. What about Anna? What about Carmen? What about Pancha? What about Rosalie? Is there resolution for each one of them? or is there not, right? Do you think that the resolution in this play is too convenient, right? All of a sudden, Estella is able to get another contract, with Senior Vasquez. Well, why did that happen? We don't see her struggling to get that contract, just all of a sudden she gets it, right? And then it's all sort of wrapped up. El Tormento, the van outside is really not La Migra, it's DEA, and DEA takes El Tormento away, thereby sort of removing the chauvinism so that the women can be more empowered, right? So we have Mrs. Glitz removed, we have El Tormento removed, we have Carmen, who's, sort of turned around as a result of, taking off her clothes with the other women. This isn't too convenient. And Anna comes back, and now they have this boutique. They've all joined together, and it's called Real Women Have Curves. Is it too convenient? Is the happy ending, a little too rushed? And if so, what does that suggest to you? Right? Can we believe the happy ending? Again, I connect you back to that idea of hope, right? And that idea of what is, if it is a happy ending, what did bring it about, right? Why does Anna have to come up on stage and tell us, right, what happened to the women? Why isn't it just shown? Why isn't that drama? We get all of the drama in the beginning of the play, and yet the conclusion of the play is summed up by Anna's monologue. What does that suggest? Well, let's take a look, right? So there's the coming of age story for Anna, right? Clearly, this is a coming of age story for Anna. Anna is, just getting out of high school and looking to go to college. This is the typical age for a coming of age story, right? And she clearly has epiphanies that lead her to new appreciations, right? As a result of her work in the faculty, she comes to appreciate the work of the women, right? Whereas before she, was very, sort of denigrative of their work. And her journey affects the lives of others. We see her as a result of this journey, of the result of this new appreciation, of developing compassion and empathy for others, even when she does not agree with them, right? It is also a coming of age story for Estella. While Estella is older than Anna, she is only 24. And she also has epiphanies that lead her to new appreciations, but probably more importantly, she learns how to have accountability for her own actions. That is Estella's growth, and that has serious consequences for the women who work for her. In so doing, she develops compassion and empathy for others. As a result, we have a stronger, more empowered community of women, which I think is probably the overriding theme of the play. So I hope that you have found this discussion useful. There's certainly much more that could be said about the play. We could explore metaphors, we could explore many of the characters much more in depth, right? But I think this gets it started along with the quiz questions and the writing assignments that you've had, okay? So look forward to the next story.